Welcome to Don't Scare the Newbies, a podcast where we talk kink, raw and unfiltered. I'm Kirizal, a lifestyle submissive in a 24/7 dynamic who likes their kink heavy, intense, and scary.
And I'm S, Kirizal's dominant, who knows how to deliver all of the above.
And today we have had another movie night, and we are finally going to be talking about Secretary, which I think is the most requested movie that people have been asking about.
Yeah, I think everybody seems to ask that one. There was a little period, wasn't there, when everybody wanted to know what we thought about Baby Girl. And we never talked about Baby Girl.
Everyone forgot about Baby Girl quite quickly.
Yeah.
And so did we. So yeah, Secretary.
Yeah, it's one of those films of this type, I guess, along with 50 Shades of Grey, that everybody has seen.
Yeah.
And everybody has an opinion on.
Yeah, and it's quite old as well, like old enough that people are probably like, oh yeah, that's a classic.
Oh, God. What is it, 2002?
It is, yeah, Mix. And you say 2002 and you're like, that's not that long ago, and then you look at the time and it's like, fuck, that's 24 years ago.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, to be fair, it is nearly a quarter of a century old. It's a difficult thing for me to get my head around.
Yeah.
That things that were made halfway through my life are considered classics now.
I know.
You know? And I feel like the period in which something becomes a classic is getting shorter.
Yeah. Maybe it's just because we're getting older, so time is moving a lot faster.
Wow, that's a really fucking depressing thought to start the podcast off with, isn't it?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. Thanks for that. We're just gonna pause for a sec while I go and stare at the wall for a few minutes.
Just break for an existential crisis over here.
Yeah. The wildest thing about Secretary, though, which is not in any way related to how good it is as a movie or the plot or any of that good stuff, it's that I find James Spader with hair really, really weird to look at.
Does he not normally have hair, Mix?
Not anymore.
I'm not sure if I've seen him in anything else.
No, he's put a little bit of weight on as he's got older and he's got less hair. Yeah. And now when I look at him, it looks like he's wearing a wig.
His hair looks perfectly normal to me, I think, because I'm not conditioned to expect him to be bald.
No, it's just so weird. It's really jarring to see him like as a relatively young man. There you go. That's my take on Secretary.
That's it.
That's the only thought. That's the only thing I wrote down the entire film. What the fuck is James Spader doing with hair?
I mean, seeing as we are a kink podcast, not a hairdressing podcast, we should probably talk about some of the kink in it.
Probably, yeah.
And I really like the kink in it. We're obviously going to dive into it deeper than that, but just as a general overview, I think as far as kinky movies go, it's a good one. It's my favourite. Like, I really love it. I've seen it a lot of times. And I think it's important that we sort of talk early on, get it out of the way, the exact same criticisms we had of consent in 50 Shades of Grey and in Pillion, and that we will probably have in every kinky movie that we ever watch on this podcast, do also apply to Secretary. And it gets a pass from a lot of people, I think, because it's so fucking good.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of people like comparing 50 Shades to it and was like, oh, Secretary is so much better. And it's like, it is. But the things you're criticising 50 Shades for are also a problem here.
Yeah, but I think some of that forgiveness probably comes from the way that the plot pans out.
Yeah.
Which kind of make up for it, so you don't see a specific negotiation scene in Secretary, although you do, weirdly, in 50 Shades.
Yep.
But it's obvious that everybody's into it in this film, and the way that the story pans out, you're like, okay, yeah, clearly they have talked about something at some point, and they are both into it.
Yeah, I agree. That's my interpretation too, is that the communication between the characters is lacking, the sort of good consent practices is lacking, but the enthusiastic consent and the active participation is not a one-sided thing. But if it happened in real life, I would hope it would go without saying that's sexual harassment. You can't hire someone and then psychologically and sexually torture them. That's not allowed.
No.
For that, you have to go on Tinder.
Yes, true. Well, do you want to give us a bit of a run through of what occurs in the film? Because we're not going to do it scene by scene, are we?
No.
So what happens?
Yes, Mix. Secretary is a film about a young woman called Lee. At the start of the film, she has just come out of a mental institution where she has been because of some difficulties with self-harm. Mm-hmm. And she returns to her family home, and pretty soon after that does start self-harming again. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of tension in her family, both with her parents being worried about her and a little bit on edge around her because of her past, but also difficulties between them, with her father being an alcoholic and her parents having a really unhealthy relationship. So she's trying to get back on track and get her life in order. She goes to try to find a job and gets a job as a secretary. And very rapidly, things start to develop between her and her boss, who's a lawyer. Interestingly called Mr. Grey.
Yeah.
That's just what dominants are called now. So Mr. Grey is very, very particular about how he likes things done and can be very harsh in how he corrects her behaviour. Mm-hmm. And it is very clear that he is finding it hard to control that side of himself and is getting something from it more than just getting things done the way that he likes them done. Yeah. And Lee starts to realise that she is also getting something from that. She is getting some kind of fulfillment from his harsh treatment and from his controlling behaviour. Mm-hmm. They sort of fall into, as far as we see on screen at least, quite unnegotiated DS dynamic with a strong element of punishment and discipline as part of it. And then he starts to pull back from that because of guilt and shame around what he's doing and recognising the way he's gone about it is wrong. Mm-hmm. Lee tries to explore kink through other people that she meets and doesn't find what she's looking for. And all the time this has been going on, she's been sort of reluctantly dating a guy that she grew up with. And she commits to getting married to this guy and to try to have a normal, typical vanilla life. But ultimately, she is not able to go through with that. The draw of this kinky lifestyle she's found is too much. Mm-hmm. She comes back to Mr. Grey and says that she wants this relationship with him. And he, open to interpretation how this happens, but my view of it is very much that he's testing if she really is prepared for what he is. Leaves her to sit with her feet on the floor and her hands on the desk for a period of several days. And then he returns to her after she has proven her submission, and they have a 24/7 dynamic moving forward. Yeah,
that's a really good synopsis. I think there's a couple of really interesting things for me about the plot. Is one, right at the start, like, he clearly gets through quite a lot of secretaries.
Yes.
Because it's not like a little sign in the window, is it? It's a wooden sign with lights on it that he hangs out whenever he loses a secretary.
Yeah.
So I suspect this is not the first time that Mr. Grey has tried this with his secretaries.
Yeah.
Which is deeply problematic when you say it out loud.
Yes.
And the other bit is, and we had a bit of a conversation while we were watching it, because I've seen it twice.
Yeah.
Both times with you. And that sequence at the end where she is sitting at the desk in his office, it's over a period of days. People are coming in to try and convince her to leave. Her fiance, who she's just left, her dad, there is a news crew. All of that stuff is going on about this when she's sitting at this desk. And I don't know on the second watch whether all of that actually happens.
Yeah, I definitely think some of those interactions were in her head. It feels like the different parts of herself processing through and almost arguing with herself.
Yeah.
But I feel like the whole movie, it feels like it exists in a slightly sort of heightened reality or slightly altered reality. Yeah. Like, it's got a little bit of this isn't supposed to quite feel like the real world. Kind of like The Substance, very different movie.
Yeah.
But it feels like you're supposed to know this is a movie set.
Yeah. Yeah, I see that. I think the first time I watched it, I just thought, oh yeah, this is that kind of just completely ridiculous.
Yeah.
Plot twist. So yeah, of course, her fiance goes in and her dad goes in. Of course, a news crew turns up and starts talking about it on the daily news, because that's just how this movie goes. But the second time round, I kind of thought, what you said, it actually, is this in her head? Is she working things out for herself?
Yeah.
Kind of in that moment and going, no, actually, this really is what I want. Nobody can convince me otherwise. Not in a combative way, but in like a reflective way. Those things are popping up and she is seeing those things because she is processing.
Yeah. And I think the first time we watched it together, we hadn't done our interrogation scene yet. And obviously the second time we've watched it together, we have. And it was interesting seeing prolonged isolation as kink in the context of having experienced it.
Yeah.
No, I wasn't left alone for very long periods at all during the interrogation because you were popping in and out of the room to do awful stuff to me.
Yeah.
But I was left alone with my thoughts for some periods that felt quite long at times. And your head does start creating scenarios and creating dialogue with yourself and doing this stuff to pass the time and to make sense of the intense situation you're in. So I think, having seen this movie a bunch of times, but I think my current interpretation of that scene is that he did leave her there. She was there and isolated for a period of time.
Yeah.
Probably a few hours.
Yeah.
And that was her process and her perception of time during that.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. Because it does go into, like I say, it's a bit of flight of fantasy right at the end, isn't it? I mean, the whole film is a bit flight of fantasy, I suppose, because, like you say, it's that very weird situation. Very atypical situation.
Yeah.
For two people to find themselves in.
Yeah. I love it. As is probably obvious from the fact I've seen it loads of times and have slightly different interpretations of bits of it every time I see it. It is one of my favourite movies, but how have you found it, Mix, now you've seen it twice?
I enjoyed it. I probably enjoyed it more the second time than I did the first time.
Yeah.
I think I probably went into watching it the first time quite sceptical because it was like, here we go again. Yet another example of Hollywood trying to do something with kinky relationships or BDSM as a lifestyle and then just not getting it right.
Yeah.
So I think I went into it quite sceptical, but enjoyed it. And then I think watching it the second time round, with the knowledge of how the plot goes, but also specifically because I was paying more attention to it, because I knew I was going to talk about it for an hour and a half on a podcast episode. I think it's quite clever. The way that it does it, there's a lot going on that you wouldn't notice unless you were looking for it.
Yeah.
Which I really liked about in terms of how their dynamic plays out, I think is really quite subtle. Not very subtle in some ways, but really quite subtle in others.
Yeah, well, earlier on you mentioned something you'd spotted about how at one point he tells her that she should have put more sugar in his coffee.
Yeah.
And then at a later point says now there's too much sugar in his coffee.
Yeah.
And I'd never picked up on that, having seen this probably 8 or 9 times. And it is just the more times you watch it, the more little subtle behaviours you start to spot like that, which is really cool.
Yeah. And that's the kind of thing that I really liked about it.
Yeah.
Like that, even to them, subtle power play going on there. You know, because she can never get it right, and that's the point. But yeah, I definitely didn't notice that the first time round. I think one of the things I really like about it was finally there was a relatable dominant.
Yes.
On the screen, because he's not Mr. Grey from 50 Shades. He's not whatever the guy's name is in Baby Girl. I can't even remember the name of the actor. That's how little I care about that film.
I will say I really liked Baby Girl, but I don't think it's had a massive cultural impact because the dominant was not that interesting.
No.
I'm 100% in it for the submissive, but that's another episode.
Yeah, but finally there is a dominant character that not only can I relate to, but is actually quite common in the kink community and in the BDSM community.
Yeah.
Like, he's really talented. He's very intelligent, but he is shy as fuck and awkward as fuck.
Yep.
And in some way neurodivergent.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to label him as autistic, but yeah, very neurodivergent in his approach to his work and the way he lives his life. You know, his obsessive care over his orchids and really quite elaborate system for caring for them as well.
Yes.
Like the contraption that he has to mist them and stuff
very
like that.
Very fancy.
So it was just nice to kind of turn that trope on its head a little bit of kind of the arrogant, the classically attractive, well-built, rich, dominant man kind of thing, you know, chiseled jaw and all of that kind of stuff. And James Spader is an attractive man, but he is not that stereotype that you usually see.
I agree, and very much played him as an awkward nerd, which is what almost every dominant I've ever met is.
Yeah.
I really enjoy as well the switch you see with him between, like, when he's interviewing her and when he's talking to her and he's trying not to step into his dominant role, when he's trying to just be his at work self.
Yeah.
He struggles to make eye contact. He's sort of awkwardly moving his hands a lot. He can't seem to settle in one position for very long and kind of moves around the room.
Yeah.
It's like he's not at home in his skin.
No.
But then when he is acting in his dominant role, You see direct eye contact, confident body language, completely in control. And I've seen that flip with every dominant that I've interacted with socially and then have either played with or watched play. Like, that is what it is like. And I find that so much more believable than characters who are just this sort of perfectly confident, perfectly charming, perfectly in control dominant all the time, because that's just not how people are.
Yeah, and it's really nice to see, because you're right, you can see the difference in him when he's not doing that and trying not to do that, and when he is doing that, when he feels able to. And again, especially at the end, where they are together in a 24/7 DS dynamic, they both seem so much more at ease, like, in the world, in that 3-minute scene or whatever it is at the end of the film.
Definitely.
Like, which is really nice to see, because you also don't often see that in this kind of film. Yeah. You know, although to be fair, my experience of kink films is I haven't seen lots of them, but they don't all end happily, do they?
I think it depends. It depends on the film, and we have many more that we will watch. I think it's not only relatively rare to see a film about a couple ending up in a kinky relationship together, because we don't have enough representation as it is, but for the kink not to be presented as a barrier to intimacy in any way. Secretary very much shows the kink as the intimacy. When he pulls back from the kink, he pulls back from everything. When they resolve their problems and get together, it's done through kink, and it's done with kink integrated into the relationship they have. In Pillion that we talked about, the nature of the dynamic is a barrier to intimacy. The message of the film seemed to be very much, you can't do this 24/7. There needs to be a break. There needs to be a point where you get away from the kink, because the kink is what's blocking your intimacy. Secretary says, absolutely fuck that. If you say to me, we can't do this 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, I say, why not? Like, that line is the core message of Secretary, and that's why I love it so much, I think, because it dares to say, actually, this stuff is really fucking intimate.
I think what was interesting to me about the way that it presented intimacy, kink as being intimate, is there isn't actually a lot of sex in the film.
There's not.
And the vast majority of sexual contact in the film is between Lee and her fiancé that she is not happy with.
Yeah.
And actually, that scene where she has sex with her fiancé is probably the most coercive thing that happens in the film.
Yeah.
You know, because of the way that he approaches it.
Yeah, and that she's visibly not into it.
Visibly not into it, kind of giving into his desire to have sex.
Yeah.
In a film about kink, and given some of the attitudes that there are to it, actually the most coercive thing in the film is vanilla sex.
Yeah, and that whole relationship, and I don't think it's definitely not framed as anything sort of malicious from his side.
No.
But that whole relationship is very much, he thinks that they should have a relationship, and then he thinks they should have sex, and then he thinks they should get married. She just goes along with it because she doesn't know how to not.
Yeah.
And that could be down to her being submissive, it could be down to her social awkwardness, it could be down to sort of pressures from family, it could be a lot of things. But it's
societal scripts.
Yes. Because it was very much, it feels really relatable to me, not the specific relationship, because her specific relationship with Peter, her fiancé, is much more of a terrible mess than anything I've been in, I think. But that relationship on rails, where you just take the next step because that's what you're supposed to do, really was just a good summing up of every vanilla relationship I ever had, where there was no malice on the other person's part, usually. There was no conscious decision from me to force myself into a box and conform. There was just, and then you do this, and then you do this, and then it's been 10 years and you're still not happy. And having a film that really showed how shit that feels, and how monotonous it feels, and how coercive it can feel, and sets that up in contrast to, here's a kink relationship that breaks all of the rules. It breaks all the rules of what vanilla society tells you should have. It also breaks a lot of rules that we should have, like don't sexually harass your secretary. But it's transgressive, and therefore it's more real. And I think that's something that we don't see represented a lot.
No, I agree. Something else that we don't often see in this type of film, or which is kind of easily overlooked in this type of film, is a submissive woman with agency.
Yes.
I think this is something that you were, if I wanted to put words in your mouth, I think this is probably a strong contender for one of the top reasons why you like this film. So Lee is, without a doubt, a very shy and inexperienced submissive, someone inexperienced in the kink world. And the trope would go that the big, manly, arrogant, dominant would come along and teach her the ways.
Yes.
And be leading and directing. And that kind of doesn't happen. I mean, it happens a little bit in this movie, but that's not the whole story.
Definitely, because I feel like it very much starts out like that. She is, as you say, shy, inexperienced. She doesn't really know a lot about relationships. She's never had a job before. Very naive. And then he just starts doing BDSM to her. So it could very easily have stayed on that track where he's now going to teach her everything. He's going to just tell her what's what, and she's just going to go along with it. Maybe she'll like it, maybe she won't, but he's going to be in the lead. And actually, very quickly it flips where she is the one pursuing him.
Yeah.
Because at the point where he starts to pull back, he's obviously in this pattern of doing all of this stuff to his secretaries, and he feels like shit about it, as he should, because that's not the way to go about this stuff.
Yeah.
But he obviously feels a lot of shame around his desires in general and doesn't see any other healthier, more consensual outlet for them. So he tries to stop and he tries to resist those urges that he has. And that's where we see the sub in frenzy. She is acting out. She is not just making typos in her documents anymore. She's putting worms into his letters. She is bending over his desk and wriggling her butt to try to get attention. She is doing all of this stuff.
The butt wiggle of mischief.
The butt wiggle of mischief is a good technique. And at the end, it's her that confronts him about his shame, about the way that he's withdrawn from her, about what she wants and what she knows he wants.
Yeah.
It's her that forces him to be vulnerable and says that she can see the way that he suffers too. It's her that toughs out that unknown period of time where she's feet planted, hands planted in his office, refusing to leave until he accepts her as his submissive.
Yeah.
Like, this is not a submissive who's just been told you have to be a sub now because you're the girl in this movie and I'm going to teach you how to be a sub.
Yeah.
This is someone who has had something wake up in her and it is hungry.
Yeah.
And I fucking love that because that is more relatable to me by a long way.
Yeah. Yeah, she's really driving things by the end of it. She's completely driving things.
Yeah.
By the end of the movie. Which
you don't see it enough.
I don't think. No.
Which I think, as we talk about a little bit at the start, I think that balances out some of the consent issues in the movie for me. It's like, obviously this is not a scenario that should play out like this in real life.
Mm-hmm.
Shouldn't be fucking around with co-workers, shouldn't be jumping into this stuff without a proper conversation about it. But as a piece of fiction where these characters are expressing elements of ourselves that we can recognise, I think it's beautiful because it shows the intimacy and it shows the agency in submission and it shows how it can be collaborative and how there is that push and pull where both of you are leading each other in different ways.
Yeah.
It captures a lot of what kink feels like, even if it doesn't capture how kink should be done.
Yeah. And I think that, I think that's a really good way of putting it. And it's something that we've talked about before of putting a detailed negotiation where consent is really, really clear in a movie can go one of two ways, I suppose. Either it can be kind of fun, which in a weird way it was in 50 Shades, or it could just be quite dull.
Yeah.
Because I'm struggling today as well. For the most part, the negotiation part of whether it's for a scene or for a dynamic or whatever, it's exciting, but it's exciting to the people who are doing it.
Yeah.
It's probably not that exciting to watch.
I also feel like an extended negotiation scene in Secretary wouldn't have been believable for either character. Until the end of the movie, where they resolve all of their difficulties and go off to start a relationship together. At that point, I imagine they had some really clear negotiation and they probably learned how to do that. Yeah. But the point of this movie is it's about two people who don't have a fucking clue what they're doing.
Yeah.
They're hardwired to be a dominant and a submissive, but they don't know how. Like, they are muddling through and they are making mistakes and they are crossing each other's boundaries and they are fucking it up. But they find each other.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes you have to let characters in movies be messy because they're not here to teach us how to do kink. They're here to entertain us for an hour and a half.
No, that is true. And if you had characters in movies who weren't messing, it would be quite a boring film.
I don't know. I'm one of these people who would quite happily watch a movie where everything goes right, but I know I'm in a minority.
I can't think of a single film where that has happened.
No, people like conflict, so it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
But there was an episode of Star Trek, I think it was a Deep Space Nine episode, where they just played baseball. And it was great. It was really chill.
I don't remember that one.
I'm going to Google to check that I'm right. Yes, so in Star Trek Deep Space Nine, there is an episode called Take Me Out to the Holosuite, and all that happens in it is they play baseball.
Nice.
Yep. And there should be more stuff like that. Everyone just has a nice low-stakes time where nothing bad happens.
Yeah. Yeah. I think Star Trek is good at that kind of thing, though. There's proper diversion now. I think there are a few episodes like that in all of the series. Deep Space Nine did it with Trials and Tribulations, which was the throwback to Trouble with Tribbles from the original series.
Yes.
Which in itself was a silly episode.
Yeah.
You know?
But those silly episodes had peril.
But it was peril with a small p.
Yeah.
Wasn't it? You know?
But I like when there is no peril.
No peril at all.
I just want everything to go really smoothly for a bit. Yeah.
Fair. But that's just how stories go, isn't it?
It is.
How films go. 3-act stories. All of that nonsense. Anyway, should we talk a bit more about Secretary, given that that's what the people are paying for?
We probably should, yes, Mix.
Well, they're not paying for it.
Good thing they're not paying for it, yeah.
It's free.
Though
you get what you're given.
Yeah, but then on Patreon they do pay for it, and we're even worse.
True. Oh, there you go. That's the best advert for our Patreon that I've heard so far.
Pay for it, and it's even worse.
We're like this, but worse.
Anyway, Secretary. Something I really like about this movie, but is definitely controversial, and when I see people criticising this movie, this is usually what they're complaining about, is the way that it shows a masochist character who struggles with self-harm. Because I think that is a risky choice. And there are a lot of versions of this movie that it could have been that would have really pissed me off. But I like how they did it because it felt quite real to me.
Right.
Because I think it's such a difficult thing to talk about. As soon as you start saying, I'm a masochist and I have self-harmed, immediately people start going, you should go to therapy instead of doing weird sex games. And you are into masochism because it's just outsourcing your self-harm, and all of these kind of misconceptions.
Yeah.
And the instinct that you have as a masochist to go, no, they're completely different. They sit in completely different boxes. They have nothing in common. And to an extent that's true. But I don't think, much as it's not always comfortable to think about, I don't think you can ignore the way that those wires will connect somewhere in your head. I think there is going to be an element, if you're someone who's inclined towards masochism, when your brain is looking for a coping strategy for depression or trauma, if you already have an atypical relationship to pain, could that predispose you towards self-harm being the direction that goes in? I think probably the answer for at least some people is going to be yes.
I hadn't really thought about it in that order. I suppose I think I'd fallen into the trap of assuming that it only ever goes in the other direction of self-harm to masochism rather than masochism to self-harm.
I guess in terms of the chronology of the movie, that is what happens. She is self-harming and then she discovers masochism.
Yeah.
But if you understand masochism as something that's an inherent part of who people are, even before they discover it, her masochism was always there.
Yeah.
And you can see that she has a pleasure response to her self-harming.
Yeah.
There's an element of it being seeking a release of some sort or seeking a distraction from other things that are going on in her life.
Yeah.
But she also visibly enjoys it.
Yeah.
Which is a very taboo thing to show.
Yeah.
And it's a difficult thing to talk about because, like, no one wants to start romanticizing or glorifying self-harm. That's definitely not what we're about. Yeah. And when I think about my history of self-harm, it's good for my sanity to put that in a box of that was bad. And we don't do that anymore.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's not always completely honest to put it in a box of that was entirely bad and I never had any positive experience from it. Because if I didn't get something from it, I wouldn't have done it.
Yeah.
And that's a really tricky thing to navigate. And I think the movie choosing to go there was brave.
Mm-hmm.
I think choosing to show a masochist that struggles with self-harm was a really risky thing to do. And being able to do it in a way that didn't feel judgmental and didn't feel stigmatizing was impressive. Because it very easily could have been.
Yeah. It's really interesting to hear you talk about that because I think not having had experience of self-harm in that way, I think I kind of read that a little bit differently. I saw the connection between how she responded when she was hurting herself and when she was being hurt by Edward. And a positive, almost kind of sense of relief happening in both of those scenarios. But I think the thing that stood out more for me was that developing dynamic with Edward was kind of diversionary in a way. I mean, he specifically instructs her not to hurt herself again.
Yeah.
And she doesn't. And I don't think that is a simple act of obedience. I think there is something about, for her, that relationship with Edward, as weird as it is probably the most stable thing in her life.
Yeah.
Like, she's got quite a chaotic life at home. Like, her dad is an alcoholic. He is hurting her mother. She doesn't feel happy or settled in her other relationship with her boyfriend. And actually what you've got in this dynamic is something solid, something clear and structured. Like, as difficult as he makes it for her to follow the rules, there are rules. And kind of, so I kind of almost saw it, I guess, from a different perspective. And it's probably a little bit of both.
Yeah.
Like, actually what helped her to get on top of the self-harm was partly because somebody else was hurting her, but partly because she felt safe.
Yeah, and I definitely don't disagree with that. I think it shows both sides of that. I think it shows how masochism and self-harm can often exist in the same person, and they fit in different boxes and they have a different context. And that masochism and self-harm are not the same thing. Mm-hmm. But how someone who has an unusual relationship with pain might be drawn to pain in some ways that aren't healthy. Yeah. And I think it also does a good job of showing a submissive who has an issue with self-harm, and how clear structure and stability and guidance can be one of the things that becomes a protective factor for that and all manner of other self-destructive behaviours, which I really liked as well.
Yeah.
Because you're right, I think it's not just a simple act of obedience. I think she's very drawn to obedience, but I think when he tells her to stop self-harming, it's similar to the part where she walks home on her own for the first time.
Yeah.
And she talks about how she felt confident enough to do it because he had given her permission.
Yeah.
I think maybe when he told her to stop self-harming might have been the first time she'd ever believed she was capable of that.
Yeah.
And having someone that she really trusts as an authority figure tell her that she can and she will is what took for her to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Because I've seen some people being quite uncomfortable with the idea of a dominant making that a rule or giving that as an instruction. Because it starts to get into that tricky area of people using kink as therapy and how high risk and unethical that can be. If your partner is in a position where they are the thing that is keeping your life together and they are treating your problems, then it can be a huge amount of pressure on everyone involved, and it's not sustainable and can create really unhealthy dependence. But it is unavoidably true that many submissives have a much better quality of life when we have a lot of clear rules and guidance and structure that force us to do things that we wouldn't do for ourselves. And I think it shows that really well.
And I think that's a really good point to make, because not only is kink not therapy and therapy is not kink, but in this specific context, the man is a lawyer, not a therapist. I got to admit, I think I would really struggle with implementing that rule. I think I would feel very out of my depth.
That's fair.
Telling you or telling anyone to not self-harm, simply because, although logically I can understand why that might be happening, and you could tell me why that is happening, I feel like that would be something that is so deeply ingrained in your life history, and the reasons behind that are not going to be fixed just by me telling you not to do it.
The interesting thing is we don't have that rule, and I haven't self-harmed for a long time. But my personal reading of our contract would be that I am not allowed to do that anyway, because there's stuff in there about my responsibility to take care of your property. So, although we don't have a rule that says you will not self-harm, I would feel like I was doing something completely wrong and in conflict with all of the sort of core values of our dynamic if I was to do that. Hurting me is not my job.
I think that's a fair point. I think the point to make there is that although you have self-harmed in the past, that is something that you haven't done for a long time and isn't a present risk. I think if it was, we might have ended up in the same place with the contract, and we might even have ended up with a rule about it, but we would have talked about it, and we would have talked about it a lot.
Yes, we would.
You know, I'm not sure, and I would be fully comfortable with setting up a rule that said you will not self-harm. I think I would probably be more comfortable with a set of rules which says if you feel like you need to communicate that, and if you're going to do it, you're going to do it in a safe way. So harm reduction rather than stopping, I
Yeah.
think.
And that seems fair as well. I think when you start getting into any kind of rules, to be fair, you have to think a lot about unintended consequences and, you know, if you modify a behavior in this area, what knock-on effect is it going to have on a behavior in that area, particularly when you start getting into people's coping strategies, even unhealthy ones.
Yeah.
You don't know where that pressure is going to burst out. If you tell someone you are forbidden from self-harming, you don't know what is going to pop up as the next on their list of coping strategies.
Yeah.
So I think it's definitely something better addressed through more conventional means like therapy.
Yeah.
But also I know that a lot of the worst impulses I have are very effectively managed by a power exchange relationship.
Yeah, yeah.
And the fact that I always see like the most important responsibility I have is to be of service and be useful and be behaving in the way that you would want me to behave.
Mm-hmm.
Taking good care of your property comes within that. So I feel like even if we never discussed it, if I suddenly had a self-harm urge now, my first thought would be, I can't do that.
Yeah.
That's not allowed,
Yeah.
even without that being a rule.
Yeah.
But I think maybe that's having it be implied by the general overview of the rules is probably a little healthier than having you step in and take that on as your responsibility, because that's a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. Because you're right, to be fair to E. Edward Grey, that rule is very much, you know, we talked about those categories of rules that we have. It's very much in these are the rules that protect the health and well-being of the submissive.
Yeah.
Totally understand where that came from. I think it was a bold move to do that, because stopping you from doing the thing doesn't solve the problem that led to you doing the thing.
Yeah.
That's where I would be. That's where my worry would come from. The cause of that need doesn't go away.
Yeah.
Just because I say you can't do it.
Yeah.
So where does that go?
And it feels like the movie kind of implies that having the structure of a dynamic and having the pain of being spanked and things like that is solving the problem. And I think that's where it's maybe a little bit weaker, because for some people it might, but for some people, or for most people, I think that is not going to be enough to completely resolve things.
Yeah.
But overall, I like that. I think it was
Definitely.
handled pretty damn well considering.
Yeah. And again, the first time I saw the film, like first time when we watched it together, as you kind of see this vulnerable young woman coming out of a mental institution and then going home to a chaotic situation and harming herself. And you're like, oof, are they really? Is that really where they're starting with this film? So it does give you that visceral response when you see it for the first time. So I can understand why people kind of have a negative reaction to it.
Yeah.
But in the context of the rest of the movie, it tracks and it makes sense.
One of the things I really like about this movie, and I think one of the first things that really stood out to me the first time I saw it, was how properly kinky it is. Sometimes kink in movies, it's very much that polished sort of kink that vanilla people will still think is sexy. The kind of thing that people who aren't into kink will try a little bit of to spice things up.
Yeah.
And I think, for me at least, Secretary feels like it is willing to show stuff that people will look at and go, like, why?
Yeah, like, how is that kinky?
Yeah.
Sort of thing.
What did you think of that mix?
Yeah, I think I loved that. I really enjoyed that about it. And I know when we do these movie review episodes, we try not to compare and contrast too much, but there is night and day between how films like 50 Shades deal with kink and how this movie deals with kink. Like, you kind of Mr. Grey with his dungeon and all his very expensive floggers and canes and stuff like that. There's very little what you would call obvious kink equipment in the movie.
Yeah, the only thing I can really think of is the opening scene where we see her walking through the office with her hands attached to a cuff to a bar.
Yes, of course there is. Yeah, there's the spreader bars that she uses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But other than that, it is all very much perversion of everyday objects and human interactions, which I really like.
Yeah. Like the idea of using a red pen, a red Sharpie, as an item of kink equipment, I think is just lovely, because she has to type everything using a typewriter, and he is a very strict grammarian and doesn't really kind of has quite a strong reaction to typos and spelling mistakes and stuff like that, and he red pens all of her mistakes.
Yeah.
And it's stuff, I really enjoy seeing things like that, because it's not an unreasonable thing for a lawyer who employs a secretary to do, is to correct letters and send it back and go do that again because you made mistakes.
Yeah.
It's the way that he does it, which is just wonderful to see.
It's very ritualized, and you see the red pens pop up through the movie. When he first hires her, he sweeps a bunch of red pens into the bin, which is very much him swearing off doing any of that perverted stuff this time around.
Yeah.
And then you see him start using the red pens to correct her mistakes.
Yeah.
There's a scene where she has put a worm into an envelope instead of a letter to try to get his attention. Yeah. And he gets it out, lays it out carefully on a piece of paper, and then circles it over and over and over again in red pen before finally caving and summoning her in. There's another point where he throws away all his red pens and then opens a drawer, and there's a single red pen in a sort of gold bowl sitting in a drawer, like ready for him to start this shit again. Like the obsession with the red pens is so delightfully perverse. Yeah. And it feels so much more real to me than his 6 expensive riding crops.
Because it's, and I don't mean this in a gatekeepy way, but it's proper power exchange. Yeah. For me. It is proper use of authority, you know, it kind of, and in the context of that employment relationship, fairly obvious, I suppose, but it's a smart use of power and authority transfer. Yeah. Which is, I just love stuff like that. And the way that he exerts that power and exerts that control, like the scene where she's on the phone to him and he's giving her really fucking weird instructions about how much food, and really specific instructions about how much food she can eat. Yeah. It's like saying you can have this much of your steak and you can have a tablespoon or whatever it is of potato and 4 peas. Yeah. And then she just does it with absolutely no shame, no hint of embarrassment or anything. She is sitting with her family with her tiny little cube of steak, her little spoonful of potatoes, and 4 peas on her plate. Yeah. It's just, that's fucked up. You know, it's really messed up, but it's brilliant. Yeah. You know, really enjoyed sort of seeing that play out, where it would be so easy for it just to go down a more stereotypical discipline route where you do something wrong and then you get caned for it. And that happens. She gets spanked on a number of occasions for doing things wrong. Yeah. But that's only a tiny part of it. Yeah, which feels a lot more like how kink is for us, because we do the sexy stuff, we do the spanking and we do the handcuffs and we do all of that, but also we end up getting turned on by the stupidest things. Yeah. Like when we first started Findom and you were just demanding money for Greg's pasties and coffees. No one would look at that and go, that's sexual, but for us it's really hot. Yeah. And letting kink be just really weird is just, I love it. Yeah. And then out of nowhere they do a pony play scene. Yeah. It's like right in the middle of the movie, isn't it? Where they're in their groove before it starts to go wrong. There's that little montage of what office life is like. And right in the middle of it, there's like 30 seconds where she's kneeling on his desk and he puts a saddle on her back and a carrot in her mouth. Yeah. You're like, what? And anyone who's not, well, even people who are kinky, I suppose, but definitely people who aren't kinky watching that will just go, what the fuck? But it's the exact kind of thing that happens in a kinky relationship, is you just go, should we try a bit of that? Like, why not? Yeah, absolutely. And then we've already talked about the end scene, but like talk about, regardless of how long she is actually sitting in that position, whether it is a number of hours or a number of days, the devotion that is required to do that. Yeah. And it draws a lot on, I think, more traditional forms of BDSM, so kind of slave positions and stuff like that, where she, you say it out loud, feet flat on the floor and hands on the desk. Doesn't sound like it would be all that uncomfortable, but like try it, not move. Yeah, I can't sit at the same position at my desk for more than about 30 seconds, so I would say. That's what I mean, though. It's like, it doesn't sound like it's physically strenuous. But try doing it. Yeah. And not moving. I would find that really, really hard. Yeah. And I'd say you would as well. I would lose my mind, yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Oh, no. Interesting. I would do it, though. If you told me to, I would do it. I would just strongly prefer not to. Yeah. But I'm not sure which kind of branch of BDSM that comes from, but it's a nod to that really ritualized aspect of BDSM and kind of holding slave positions as an act of service or as an act of devotion or as an act of worship or whatever
Yeah.
it is, which is just, again, just really nice to see a range of ways that kink can be done, that power and authority and control can be exercised, and discipline
Yeah.
as well can be exercised.
Yeah. Something I really like with that scene is that she pisses herself as well.
Yes.
And I don't mean
she
I
does.
like it because I'm a huge pervert. I mean,
Not
it's
just because you're a huge pervert.
Yeah. But like, again, it's allowing the film to show something very deviant. And it's also showing that depth of submission as well, to be prepared to really humiliate yourself like that, to piss yourself and continue to hold position, and then sit there in your piss-soaked wedding dress and continue to hold position.
Yeah.
And the fact that when he then comes and gets her, he quite happily picks her up and he goes and washes her in the bath.
Yeah.
Which I love that scene so much, because it's proper. We finally get aftercare. Because that's definitely a weak spot through the movie, is that we're not seeing that, and that's because they are both figuring this out, and they're both, or at least particularly he is, trying to resist being fully engaged in this. So there's a lot of kind of, we're done playing, get out of my office.
Yeah.
And then at the end, when he finally embraces that side of himself, he has no discomfort with the fact that she's been sitting there for God knows how long and she stinks of piss. He just wants to take care of her and be intimate with her.
Yeah.
And that really captures for me how kink sort of breaks down a lot of that self-consciousness and disgust and shame and all of these things that we feel about ourselves and feel about other people and put up these walls between us.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that makes kink so intimate is that permission to be messy and disgusting and raw in front of each other.
Yeah.
I really like that it showed that.
Yeah, I agree. And for me, I think what I got from that was more about probably the devotional aspect of it.
Yeah.
I'm going to stay here no matter what, to prove that I am worthy of them and to prove how much they mean to me.
Yeah.
I'm just going to, if I piss myself, I piss myself.
Yeah.
Because the task is this.
Yeah.
You know? Which I guess I would. In my position, I would pick up on more, I suppose.
I was thinking that it's really interesting that we pick up on different things from that because of our roles. So for you, the thing that you love to see is the sort of depth of devotion and submission. And the thing that I love to see is the way that she's accepted while being a mess.
Yeah.
Because that's maybe a summary of what we both get from this.
Yeah. I mean, it's good for me to see both sides of them. But yeah, it was that devotional act, I think, that was the thing for me of that's what that symbolised for me when she pissed herself.
Yeah.
In a wedding dress. In a boss's office.
Yeah. Living the dream.
Living the literal dream. I think there are some aspects of the movie where the practice of kink is not fully authentic. So we do not see the proper consent and negotiation done. You have to properly negotiate your scenes and your dynamics, and you have to have consent to all of the things that happen. If you're not doing those things, it's abuse. But you don't see that. So there's an element of unreality, I suppose, which in this context doesn't detract from the authenticity of everything else that we saw.
No, I agree. And the thing that I did think was really authentic was the way that you see her agency expressed. So though, yes, we're lacking on the verbal communication, the negotiation, we see things like when she has made a mistake and didn't get the reaction she wanted from it, intentionally doing things to draw attention. So what I've mentioned with the worm, there's a part where he notices a mistake but doesn't react to it, or doesn't notice a mistake, I forget which, but then walks out of the room she's in and she starts loudly sniffing because he'd previously told her he doesn't like it when she sniffs and kind of snuffles her nose all the time. She just sits there like... And what that reminded me of is when I am doing, every evening we do worship, where I'm kissing your feet, kneeling in front of the mirror, kissing your feet. And sometimes you put your foot on my head or on my back while I'm doing that, and I really like that. And if it's been a couple of days and I haven't had a foot put on me, I will start like raising my butt up in the air and wiggling it so that I get stamped on. Yeah. It was very, very those vibes.
Yeah. Yes, you have your ways of seeking attention.
Yeah.
Don't you?
Yes, mix.
You make it sound like I don't give you attention.
No, you do. I'm just very needy.
Yeah.
However much attention you give me, I will politely request some more.
Politely request more.
Yeah.
Very
yes, please, mix.
Very politely.
Well, I've never given you an envelope with a worm in it.
No.
From the
That
look
is
I'm
true.
getting, I think it might not be advisable for me to try that.
My first response wouldn't be to circle it in red pen.
No, Mix?
No, put it on your desk. No, that would not be my first response.
What would it be, Mix?
Well, if I'm being honest, I think my first response would be, what the fuck is this? What is the deranged pig doing now? I think would probably be my genuine response to it.
Yeah. Something I wanted to, cautiously talk about is, you touched on this as well, I definitely read both characters as neurodivergent, and I think Lee particularly reads as potentially autistic. Now, as you said, we can't be diagnosing anybody. Neither of us are qualified to diagnose anybody, and also these are fictional characters.
Yep.
But I have looked online to see if I was completely alone in thinking this, and it does seem like a few other people, including autistic people, read Lee as autistic.
Yep.
There's certain things she does, like scripting her conversations before she goes into them.
Yeah.
A lot of her mannerisms and the way that she interacts with other people, and some of the ways that her vulnerability is expressed are things that some autistic people have picked up on as being relatable to them. So even if the character wasn't intended to be autistic, it's certain that there are traits that people are going to see themselves in that way. And I thought that was interesting because we know that there is a very high amount of neurodivergent people in the kink community.
Yes.
You go to a munch and you've got everyone sitting around. There's usually someone with a box of fidget toys. No one's making eye contact. Someone is info dumping in the corner. It's fantastic. It is a whole vibe.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of the time when kink is presented in mainstream media, it's tried because they're trying to make it glossy and sexy and appealing to everybody.
Yeah.
They don't want their characters to come across as awkward or having any kind of social difficulties or anything like that, so they don't really represent that, where these felt like people you would run into at your local munch. I could 100% see myself sitting down at a table at a munch and Edward and Lee are there.
Yeah. I think you're right. I like I said at the start, it's I don't know what the writer's intention was for those characters, but if you look at both of them and you can kind of see that neurodivergence in them. He is very particular in a lot of things and very focused on a lot of things and has kind of his own rituals and stuff, which could read as autistic, I suppose. It is just really nice to see people represented in that way that are real. Yeah. I think. Because you're right, it's like the stereotypical dom kind of persona, very together, very confident, very charming and clear and all of that kind of stuff. And even the kind of the submissives who are almost exclusively women in these films. The worst thing about them, the worst in very big kind of air quotes, I suppose, is that they might be a little bit dowdy. Yeah. That mid-movie transformation from bookish woman with straight hair and glasses and might wear cardigans and stuff like that into this submissive sex siren kind of thing. That's as deep as it gets a lot of the time. Yeah. Not that there is anything wrong with bookish women with straight hair who wear glasses and wear cardigans. Like that's sounds really good to me. But yeah, female submissives in these kind of stories tend to be allowed to be a little bit shy. Yeah. And maybe not very good at chatting to men. Yeah. But other than that, pretty typical. Yeah. And then the male dominants are supposed to really have their shit together and be super confident at all times. Yeah. And then in Secretary, having them both be just pretty regular people, little bit quirky. Yeah. Probably neurodivergent. Yeah. Definitely awkward. Yeah. Neither of them really knowing how to interact with each other or really anyone else. Yeah. And really finding a lot of this stuff really difficult. Mm-hmm. Again, just really grounded it in the kind of people that you meet in the kink community. Yeah. Instead of feeling like, okay, but these people are nothing like us. It was like, these people are exactly like us. Yeah. Yeah. And that goes back to where we started, the relatability of the characters. It was nice to see someone that I recognised for myself. Yeah. Because I can't stand the kind of people that are usually represented in kink movies, if I'm being honest.
I think particularly dominants tend to be done really badly.
Yeah. Yeah, if Christian Grey turned up at a bunch, I would avoid him.
Yeah.
Because I would just think, arsehole.
But Edward Grey we could hang out with.
Edward Grey, I'd love to chat to Edward Grey. Yeah, I think it'd be fascinating.
Yeah.
What was it that Mark referred to it? The Council of Debauchery or something?
Oh, it was something like that, yeah. Yeah, he would definitely fit into that.
You know, you get the reports from the Department of Power Exchange and the Department of Degradation and stuff like that. Edward would fit in at the Council of Debauchery, I feel.
Yes. And I think, this is going well outside of the topic of let's talk about Secretary as a movie, but it's nice to see something that draws attention to how that intersection exists. Because I think a lot of people outside the kink community probably have just absolutely no knowledge of that at all if their knowledge is coming from the media. But then when people do hear about autistic people and people with ADHD and other neurodivergent people participating in kink, there's often that instant reaction of, vulnerable people being taken advantage of, being sucked into something. Yeah. And it actually, a lot of the time, it's more that people who experience the world in an atypical way also experience love and intimacy and romance and sensory connection and pain in ways that are not quite aligned with neurotypical people as well.
Yeah.
And so it makes sense that they're going to be seeking something from their relationships that you don't find on the standard menu. And the movie didn't make any commentary on that. It didn't even outright say anything about whether the characters were neurodivergent or not. But I think having something like that visible that at least gives a hint at it, a little glimpse at it, could maybe pave the way for better representation and better understanding of that in the future.
Yes. Yeah. Given that the movie is 24 years old, it didn't.
Yet, but it's still influential. I don't think we would have 50 Shades. We probably wouldn't want to have 50 Shades, but I don't think 50 Shades would exist without a Secretary. Definitely Baby Girl wouldn't exist without a Secretary.
No, I
think it
right.
was really...
That's fair.
Really started to influence things and has continued to influence things, and the ripple effect of that will go on. So there's still time.
That's very optimistic of you.
Yes, Mix.
So we've talked a lot about kind of the themes that we really liked in the film, but there was a few things that I think kind of fairly small moments in the film that we really, really enjoyed.
Yes.
Why don't you start off with one?
Yeah, first, my absolute favourite bit of this movie, and possibly any movie ever, and I know I referenced this earlier on as well, is the part where she confronts him and says that she wants that relationship with him. And he says, we can't do this 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And she says, why not? Just love that, because there is this feeling that people have, both kinky people and non-kinky people, who look at this stuff and go, yeah, but that's completely unrealistic. No one can live that way.
Yeah.
And definitely in my early stages of figuring out my kink identity, I knew I wanted a power exchange relationship, but I had those thoughts in my head of, but obviously you can't go too far, and obviously you can't give people control over this, and obviously you can't live like that all the time.
Yeah.
And then having that realization, but why not? If that's what's authentic to me, why not?
Yeah.
And finding that there are people who can do that with you, who are capable of that and want that just as much as you do, is just so fucking cool. And seeing that represented is just amazing to me. I just think it's a really powerful moment and something that really sums up an important turning point in my life when I figured out that I could have this.
Yeah. Oh. I think so. I think that's, it kind of talks to like a really big misconception about what 24/7 dynamics are in reality. And I guess it comes from a misconception about what kink is. Because I read something the other day on FetLife about someone who, on this very topic, addressing that criticism, that question of whether or not you can actually have a 24/7 approach to kink. And what she was saying is, yes, but that doesn't mean that we are both wandering around the house wearing head-to-toe rubber and whipping my partner's balls all the time. There are levels to this.
Yeah.
There is subtlety to this. And it changes throughout a day. It changes over time. It changes depending on where we are and what we're doing and who we're with and all of that stuff. But there's always something present there that kind of brings you back into that 7 space.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't stop at hour 23, or day 7.
Yeah.
But it might look different day to day.
Yeah, and that's how it is for us. And I think that's something that people sometimes, the questions I get on TikTok and stuff, people try to get their heads around is,
Hmm.
if we're 24/7, they'll ask, so do you ever watch a movie together? And do you make jokes? And do you go for days out and stuff? And it's like, yeah, we do all of that stuff.
Yeah,
The 24/7 dynamic isn't a barrier to that. It's just the framework it happens within.
yeah.
So there'll still be little bits of protocol there. You know, we're watching a movie together. I get up off the couch to get a drink, and when I come back and wait to be invited onto the couch, you make me kneel on the floor for a couple of minutes.
Yeah,
Things like that. But none of that detracts from the fact that we're cuddling up and watching a movie together.
yeah,
You'll
yeah.
let me on the couch eventually, and the cuddles will continue.
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
it's the 24/7 dynamic integrates into an ordinary life, and you
Yeah.
can have both.
yeah. Weird little aside. I don't find it difficult. I don't find it challenging in that way. But that rule we have about you having to be invited on the sofa, part of the reason I tell you to sit so much is because if you're on the floor, then we're not on the sofa together.
Oh,
You know, it's like, do you remember when we first started out with punishments? One of the punishments was that you would have furniture privileges removed.
yeah,
And you broke a rule, and the punishment that I decided on was that you would lose your furniture privileges, which meant you had to sleep on the floor. And I think I suffered more than you did
yeah,
for that, because you kind of thought that was quite hot,
yeah.
and, like,
It was.
dehumanizing and stuff like that. And I'm just there in bed on like, what the fuck do I do now?
Yeah. Yeah, and I missed cuddling up with you as well, but yeah, it did tap into that sort of, yeah, this is my place.
Yeah,
So it felt more like play than punishment to me, but
Yeah.
it felt like a punishment to you, so we scrapped
yeah.
that one.
yeah. It did not last long at all. But it's stuff like that. It's in the asking, isn't it? It's not in the outcome. It's in the asking
Yeah,
where the dynamic exists. It's like you sit on the sofa because I allow it.
yeah,
And even if I allow it all the time, or most of the time, I allow it.
yeah,
And that's the point. I think one of the things that I really enjoyed as a dominant and a bit of a sadist was the power plays in it, and the testing, like especially in the early parts of the film, where he would use some subtle and not so subtle ways of exerting power and control, and testing where she would go with it. I just found found it really fascinating. So I think we talked about it earlier on, the inconsistency about how much sugar he liked in his coffee,
yes,
or the fact that she couldn't get it right. There was either too much or not enough in there. There was the really funny scene where he says that he loses his notes, and they're probably in the garbage, and most people would have said, "Oh, well, they're gone then, aren't they?" But she climbs into the garbage,
yeah,
big massive garbage bin, and she finds the notes. You know, it's little things like that I really enjoyed, and it goes back to that authentic deviance.
yeah.
But
Yeah, I agree. I think testing is a really good way of describing it, because it was very much like, almost, you talk about sometimes having a mad science approach to kink, where you just sort of do stuff to see if you could do it.
yeah,
And it felt like a psychological version of that at times, where he was figuring out at what point she would push back, if she ever would. And obviously she didn't.
yeah.
And seeing him thrive off that submission that she was leaning further and further into, the way that she would just debase herself for him,
Yeah,
and the way that they both sort of fed off each other's energy in that
yeah,
was really,
yeah,
again, I keep saying it, but it feels really real. It
Yeah,
feels like a lot of how I like kink to feel.
yeah,
I really liked, a lot of mine seem to come from the end of the movie. I like the whole thing, but there's just some of the dialogue towards the end of the movie is just such good, like, ways of summing up how kink is. So there's a part where she's sitting at the desk at the end, and her fiance comes to try to talk her out of it and says, "Why won't you move your hands?" And her response is, "Because I don't want to," which I love, because they could have easily written that line as, "I've been told not to," or "I'm not
Yeah.
allowed to."
Yeah.
But the actual answer is because she doesn't want to. She's choosing to submit. She's choosing to follow the orders that she's been given. She's choosing the life that she is there proving her loyalty to.
Yeah.
And that reminder that submission is a choice. I don't like the sort of oversimplification that people say of, oh, the submissive is the one with the real power, because in a healthy dynamic, both people have the real power to create it together and negotiate it together and to stop it together. But the other misconception is that submissives have no power and are just passive, weak-willed people who are being dragged along by someone who's taking advantage of them. And actually saying, no, she is submitting because she chooses to. And she is doing this weird thing that no one understands because she chooses to and she wants to. I really like that. It just kind of captured the whole movie.
Yeah, that was really nice.
Yeah.
A really nice moment.
Yeah.
In the movie.
And there was a lot in that sort of montage at the end of it really showed the whole sort of range of reactions you get to being in this kind of relationship if you're open about it or if you sort of become exposed and people find out about it, where there were people who were sort of supportive and understanding. And then there was the usual criticisms, like, more or less, why can't you just be normal? I think the actual line was, there are other ways to show your devotion, more conventional ways.
Yeah.
There was the woman who came in with a big stack of feminist literature.
Yes.
And was like, you need to read this and understand.
Yeah.
And that sort of, those interesting things where you've got on one side the sort of conservative view of why can't you just be normal and conventional and fit in with everyone else. And on the other side, be like, you need to be more progressive and you need to be more proud of being a strong, independent woman. And if you're not living up to these ideals, you're failing. And it's like, so you're failing on two counts at opposite ends of the spectrum of each other. Maybe that means you're not failing at all.
Yeah.
It was clever because it was subtle and it was quick. You know, you blink and you miss it. There's a lot going on in that scene.
Yeah.
But just having all of the noise of the world around you telling you, don't let someone else tell you what to do, let us tell you what to do.
Yeah.
And just sitting there throughout it with your feet on the floor and your hands on the desk is sometimes how my life feels.
Oh. Yeah, I think that's fair. Yours are much deeper than mine. Mine were just fun bits that I saw.
I have seen it a lot of times though, Mix.
Yeah, true. I think there was one bit that I guess I related to less directly, but I understand it, was that period after Edward pulled away completely. And then she set about kind of educating herself and trying to find other people. And I really liked that it goes back to agency and it goes back to the kind of the desire and the need of the submissive as being an active participant in this, because she was educating herself, she was reading about it and she was learning about it, but she was also trying to find people. Yeah. And it was just that kind of slightly heartbreaking comparison between the two, where she's really keen and really excited and trying to learn as much as she can, and then just being a bit disappointed by the people that she meets who aren't Edward. Yeah. I think they show 3 people, don't they?
They do, Mix, yeah.
None of them are the finest examples of kinky people. No. You know, I think one of them, she says, pinched her nipples before they even got in the car. Yeah. So in a movie that doesn't show explicit consent and negotiation, even less. So there was the guy who she was throwing tomatoes at. Yes, he wanted her to throw tomatoes at him while he was chained to a lit grill. Yeah. Which in itself... Valid. Like, if that's how he gets off, then amazing, but it wasn't satisfying for her. No. And then there was... Who was the third guy? He wanted her to piss on his porch, Mix, and then when she said she didn't want to do that, he said, I thought you were a masochist. That's it. Yeah, that was it. So just, like, instantly relatable, bad examples, bad experiences, I suppose, of when you've had something that is really, really positive and then going out to find similar things and being a bit disappointed. Yeah, that was my fear after my last breakup. Like, literally, I thought I was going to end up meeting Tomato Guy. And that's not what happened. I played with a couple of very nice people and then I met you. But there is that fear when you found really high compatibility with someone. That sounds awful. I played with a couple of really nice people and then I met you. No, I meant, and then even better, I met you. A couple of nice people who I played with and had a good time with but didn't look for a relationship with. And then I met the love of my life. If you want to choose to take it as something negative, that's on you. Two nice people and you. I jest, of course.
Yes.
I am merely teasing. Have you got any more?
I have a whole big ass paragraph mix.
Oh, wow.
But I'm scared if I try to read this quote out loud, I might make myself cry because it is my favourite. So I don't have a lot to say about this. I just love this whole chunk from the end of the movie as well. She says, in one way or another, I've always suffered. I'm gonna cry, for fuck's sake. For fuck's sake.
Do you want me to read it?
I will try once more, and then if not, then yes, you mix. She says, in one way or another, I've always suffered. Fuck's sake. Okay, so Mix is going to read this because I can't get through it without crying.
Good grief. I have to be stoic now. Okay. In one way or another, I've always suffered. I didn't know why exactly, but I do know that I'm not so scared of suffering now. I feel more than I've ever felt, and I found someone to feel with, to play with, to love in a way that feels right for me. I hope he knows that I can see that he suffers too, and I want to love him. Aww.
That is the most me thing in the whole movie, and it makes me very soft, yes. Yeah, this really sums up how my submission feels, sort of really specifically. That idea of kind of finding meaning in pain, but also feeling things intensely in a trusted space. As you can tell from the fact that I cannot read out a movie quote without crying, I feel my feelings really hard. My emotions are really close to the surface. Like, I cry at a lot of the music I like, I cry at a lot of movies. I've cried at every season so far of Bridgerton that we've been watching.
Yes.
I am soft.
Yes.
And a lot of the time I think that can feel like a vulnerability and like a weakness. And in submission, that feels like a space to really feel all that stuff as intensely as I feel it, and that is celebrated and wanted.
Yeah.
Because it's necessary. I think to do this stuff, you have to let your emotions out, especially on the submissive side, because there's so much intense feeling in it, and how you respond to that is the communication a lot of the time.
Yeah.
The thing that really drew me into kink was having that permission to feel things intensely and be messy and cry and scream and do all of that stuff, and not have it be seen as embarrassing or weak or uncomfortable or a thing that people would look away from, but actually a thing that attracted people to me. Yeah, that really feels very relatable to me as an explanation of why we do the things that we do. And it also acknowledges submission as a expression of love and a form of love as well. This isn't just a kinky relationship that is also a loving relationship. It isn't a dynamic that has a romantic relationship running along with it. It is two people who the only way that they know how to love is through dominance and submission. Figuring that out together. And that has been my journey in kink very much, where I didn't really know what love felt like until I started expressing it through submission. And it's like, oh, that's the thing that's been missing. So yeah, that quote makes me very emotional every single time, and I, as it turns out, cannot read it out loud.
No. But it's very sweet. It's very
But
beautiful.
luckily I have you here to do things like that for me when I'm a mess.
Yeah. Cold-hearted bastard who's completely unfeeling and unaffected by that. By that quote.
Yeah, but you've cried on the podcast before, and I'm sure I'll get you again sometime.
True.
I'll just get you to read out one of my blog posts.
Oh, God. No.
I'm sure it's the last 3 in a row have made you cry.
Probably.
Or something, so.
Yeah, I think you're right. But I too have cried at Bridgerton.
Yes.
But for different things.
Yes.
We cry at different things, don't we?
Yeah.
You cry when the stupid people kiss.
Yes.
And I cry when Queen Charlotte worries about what she's going to do when her husband dies. Which is something that does upset me quite a lot.
Yeah.
Quite existential. So yeah, both a little bit soft.
We are.
Around different things.
Yeah. We need to watch something low stakes like the baseball episode of Star Trek.
Send us your recommendations for low stakes Star Trek episodes.
And we'll see which of us cries at one first.
Yeah. The problem with some of the low stakes Star Trek episodes is that they're a bit rubbish. They can be. Yeah.
Apart
from the baseball bat. Not the baseball bat one, the baseball one.
The baseball one, yeah. The baseball bat episode is coming up in 2 weeks.
Nice. Nice bit of promo. Anyway,
any last thoughts on Secretary Mix? I really like this one, if it wasn't obvious.
yeah, it's a really good film. I would encourage people to watch it. Have an open mind when you watch it. It's a well-made movie as well.
Yeah.
I think. Like, well directed, well shot, well thought through kind of movie as well. And finally, we've watched a film that involves kink and BDSM that we are generally positive about.
Yeah.
Like, majority positive about.
Yeah.
Long may that continue.
My only negative thing I want to say is that nothing that has come out since 2002 has come anywhere near close.
No.
And I keep thinking, I thought Baby Girl was going to be the new Secretary. I thought Pillion was going to be the new Secretary.
Yeah.
And we're not beating it.
No. On a much broader point, I have a friend who said, just generally movies have got a bit less good since the 2000s.
No, I think that is an old person gripe. I don't think that's true at all. I think movies overall are a lot better over the last 10, 15 years.
She is younger than both of us.
Yeah, I've just realised who it would be as well. She is, yeah.
By quite some way.
I think this year's batch of Oscar nominations are pretty disappointing, though. That's my hot take.
Oh, God, yeah.
If Sinners wins everything, I'll be happy, but there's... And K-pop Demon Hunters, I wouldn't be too mad about winning some things, but...
Yeah.
But that's it.
Well, there you go. There are our Oscar tips. If Sinners doesn't win everything, we're going to be mad about it.
Yep.
Top and bottom of it. And K-pop Demon Hunters, best animated.
Yes.
And best song, probably.
This is the thing that's going to be difficult for me, is both Sinners and K-pop Demon Hunters should win best original song, though in my opinion, neither of them for the song they're nominated for.
Ooh, spicy hot take.
It should be between Pale Pale Moon and...
From Sinners.
From Sinners, yes. And What It Sounds Like from K-pop Demon Hunters.
And it is Golden from K-pop and...
I Lied to You from
I
Sinners.
Lied to You.
Which are
Which
also
is a
both
great
excellent.
Song.
Yeah.
I Lied to You is the one with the... with all of the past and future ancestors, isn't it?
Yes, Mix.
Yeah. So you can see why that's been nominated, but only if you watch it with that scene.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's, as a song in the movie, it's the best scene.
Mm-hmm.
As a song to listen to, I think Pale Pale Moon is better. And it's supposed to be best original song, not best scene with an original song in it.
Yeah, Academy. Sort it out.
Though I still don't know which one I would want to win if it was those two nominated, so...
I will go for Sinners every time.
That's fair.
K-pop Demon Hunters was fun, and I enjoyed it. But Sinners was brilliant. Both of those songs are brilliant.
Yeah, but in my brain, I made all of K-pop Demon Hunters about my trauma mix. As I tend to do.
It's all about you.
Yeah.
That's valid. Yeah, I can see that. No, that's fair.
Anyway, we are rambling, and this is going to end up just becoming a movies podcast that has nothing to do with kink if we don't stop soon. So,
okay,
we're going to wrap up there. Thanks everyone for listening.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Don't Scare the Newbies.
You can support us on Patreon for a whole extra episode every month, and head to kirizal.com for my blog and links to everywhere else you can follow me. See you next time.